What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another video on my channel. My name is Josh Fan of ShowMeFootball.com, covering your Missouri Tigers. And today I am joined by none other than Braden Dowers, or Show Me Baseball, as you may know him from some of the Dead Birds discussion series, which we kind of neglected for a while, but not like there's anything worth talking about in regards to St. Louis baseball. But we're on to Mizzou football, guys, because we're in the middle of fall camp. The season is fast approaching, and the Mizzou quarterback battle is heating up as we near the end of fall camp and enter the regular season. But before that, Braden, how are you doing today? And how excited are you for Mizzou football on a scale from 1 to 10?
I'm doing great. Uh, how excited am I for Mizzou football on a scale of 1 to 10? So, with how many returning starters that we have on defense and how I like how our offense shaped up, especially with the additions we got on the offensive line, but knowing it's Mizzou and with what we're about to talk about in the video, for quarterback, I'd say I'm at a solid 6 or 7 right now on the excited scale because I think that we could rattle off some wins and get to a pretty big bowl game. But it's Mizzou, so I'm trying to keep myself level headed.
It's definitely cautious optimism. That's how a lot of people
Yeah.
feel. I think this is one of the deepest rosters we've had since we joined the SEC.
Yeah. Since 13 and 14, I think that all around this is probably the best roster that I've seen them put out.
Right. Just the one issue is the most important position on the field is the one that we have the biggest question mark.
Yeah.
Everything else, like we're looking good. Like the running backs aren't spectacular, but they're good enough. Schrader and Pete, that's they did fine last year. Tavris Jones will be a sophomore this year. He showed flashes last year. The wide receivers are super deep. Offensive line looks to be much improved. And then you're returning a top 20 defense along with some notable transfer additions. And there's the potential that they can get better in Blake Baker's second year as defensive coordinator. But it all comes down to quarterback. And last year, a lot of people felt like quarterback play was the one thing keeping this team from winning games. You could very well argue that if they had a different quarterback or if they got different quarterback play, that this team wins 8 games or more last year. There were so many toss-up games that they really should have won. Florida, Kentucky, Auburn. That's 3 wins right there. That could have been a 9-win season, but it wasn't because your quarterback play just wasn't good enough. And I know some people will say the offensive line had something to do with it. The offensive line wasn't very good. Trust me, I get it. But I also think that a lot of times people try to use the offensive line as an excuse for Brady Cook because to me, Brady Cook was a guy that consistently could not complete routine throws,
Yeah.
overthrowing guys on like a 5 yard out kind of stuff. And the inconsistency was frustrating because he would hit Dominic Lovett downfield for like a 40-yard bomb one play. And then the next play, he's throwing one of the worst interceptions you've ever seen. That's just kind of how last season went. But many people suspect that he's going to be the starter heading into this regular season. But I think it's worth noting that Eli Drinkwitz has said that he's not afraid to take this quarterback competition into the first couple of games of the season. And while I appreciate him saying that and keeping this an open competition instead of just naming Brady Cook the starter, I mean, he has said that Brady Cook is the incumbent, so someone will have to unseat him. So it is kind of his spot until someone takes it, but I still think it is an open competition. Uh, but it is a little risky taking your quarterback competition into the regular season, not knowing who your quarterback is before the K-State game potentially scares me just a little bit.
Yeah, I like what you said about Cook's inconsistencies last year, where he was able to hit a 40-yard deep ball to Lovett, and then the next play was just a terrible interception. Specifically with that, I like a lot of Mizzou fans are easy to write that off and just saying, "Oh, but he was injured." Having a hurt
Yeah.
shoulder supposedly doesn't make you make absolutely dog shit reads. It just makes you
Yep.
not be able to throw the ball as far, or it makes your throws go off a little bit. But he was just making absolute blind reads that were just absolutely terrible throws. And there's that one specific one. You've posted the clip multiple times. and by anybody that says that he was injured, where he just throws it right to the Florida defender. Um,
Yeah.
so I don't think that Brady Cook is going to be that great of a quarterback ever. Um, I think if we start the season with him and he plays quarterback for us this year, it can't be worse than last year. And I think because of, like I said, how good our defense is returning, uh, I don't see us there. I find it very hard to think that we will be worse than we were last year. And I think that with maybe a little bit of elevated, more developed Brady Cook quarterback play, I think that we'll be. I think our floor is 6-6, but I'm expecting an 8-4 season. Anything less than that's a disappointment, I'd say.
Yeah. Well,
With
what
Cook at
frustrates
quarterback.
right. Well, what frustrates me the most about Brady Cook discourse is, like you said, there's the shoulder injury, and for a lot of people who like Brady Cook, the shoulder injury was like this golden ticket excuse they can
Mm-hmm.
use. And don't get me wrong, I'm sure the shoulder injury affected him a lot. But at the same time, I'm judging him based on the fact that he was still able to go out there and play. And
Yeah, if
I
you're on
I
the
can
field, you're at 100%.
right, and I can acknowledge that he had a shoulder injury, but at the same time, I don't think it's fair to sit there if you're a Brady Cook truther to sit there and look at every single bad throw he had, look at every single, turnover that he had and say, "Oh, well, that's the shoulder injury." Like, to me, that's cheap. That's a cheap excuse.
Yeah.
And it doesn't work for me. So, with that said, Brady Cook, because I at this point I'll just be honest. I'm expecting Brady Cook to be the starter for the first game. That's just kind of how I see this playing out. I think Sam Horn and Jake Garcia, who we'll get to for sure, offer a lot of upside, but this is a tough decision for Drink to make because Brady Cook offers you, I think, the highest floor, but there's not a massive ceiling with him. And this is a
Yeah.
year that Drinkwitz needs to win. And when it's a year that you need to win, I can't totally blame you for going out there with your safest option. But my thing with Brady Cook is that he can improve. Like, I don't want to make it act like we're ruling out the possibility that Brady Cook can improve. He
I
absolutely can
think that
improve.
at most, I think that Cook could lead us to an 8-4, 9-3 season.
Yeah,
Like
I
just
mean, look,
looking at our schedule, I think it's very possible that our only losses are Georgia and Tennessee if Cook plays to the level that Cook truthers think that he can play to. I don't necessarily think that he can play up to the level that some Mizzou fans think, but I do think that he could be a good enough quarterback to get us to, like I said, an 8-4 record.
yeah, because we were inches away from that last year.
Yeah.
It's like Brady Cook completed let me look real quick. I might not be able to pull it up in an instant, but he completed something like around 60% of his passes. I'll double check though. So last year, okay, he completed 64.8% of his passes. If that was even 67 or 68. Like, I think we go 8-4. Or some of those turnovers that he had were not turnovers and he makes the correct read or doesn't try to force it to Luther Burden. We win 8 games. And so I don't want to make it seem like we're ruling out the possibility that Brady Cook can improve next year. He absolutely could. What I get scared of, though, is that like I said, the ceiling. He doesn't offer us a high enough ceiling to go 8-4 or better. Because another frustrating thing about Brady Cook discourse is that people act like he was like a true freshman last year and he deserves all this time to improve, or he deserves all this time to show us that he can do it. Brady Cook last year was his third year in the program, and it was his second year of in-game experience. So it's not like he's never played before, and he was a true freshman that showed some signs of promise. It's like we need to see something at some point, and if it's not this year, then I even last year I was ready to say Brady Cook needs to be playing down a level. I don't think he needs to be starting in the SEC. I don't think he's a starting level SEC quarterback. But I think when you look at all the factors around him and you do account for the shoulder injury, there's the possibility that Brady Cook can improve. He can improve with a healthy shoulder. He can improve with an offensive coordinator added to the
I was
mix.
about to mention
He,
that.
yeah, he can improve if you incorporate more designed runs for him. Because that was something that I saw in the play calling last year that made Brady Cook look more serviceable was the designed runs. I don't think they utilized that enough early in the season. He had the ability to run clearly, but most of his runs were coming when he was being pressured and then he took off the ball. You go back and look at the Arkansas game, for example, and they basically just kept running Brady Cook until Arkansas was forced to stop it, until they were forced to put a QB spy on him. And if you can do things like that, and hopefully Kirby Moore can come in here and he can run a more coherent offense, then sure, Brady Cook might be good enough to, be that game manager quarterback that gets you to 8 wins.
Yeah, I think that like what you mentioned with Kirby Moore, I was going to go on a little tangent about how I think that having him come in, having a significantly improved offensive line, having all the receiver weapons that we have, and having just decent running backs with one of, if not the like a top five. I will go as far to say that Blake Baker is going to lead Mizzou's defense to be a top 5 defense in the league next year. With all of those factors, like Drink is trying to make Cook's life just as easy as possible. He's, and like you said, a game manager. That's all that we would really need Cook to be in that situation. And Drink has been in his history here has been very stubborn with changing quarterbacks because he never took Bazelak out 2 years ago. He never took Cook out last year.
Yeah.
He never really gave Horn or anybody else on the roster a legitimate shot to play quarterback at any time. It was just Bazelak's our quarterback in 2022 when we're going to struggle. Same thing for Cook in 2020 or in 2021, and then same thing for Cook in 2022. He just didn't budge at all, and I'm a little worried that he won't budge this year. But I think with him being able to let go and get an offensive coordinator, maybe he's loosening up, and
it won't just be his decision.
Yeah. I think that Kirby Moore hopefully is going to have a pretty big influence on this offense, and he can tell Drink, no, we need to put in Horn. And I'll let you get into Horn, but I have some opinions on him. So, yeah.
Yeah, well, I'm really glad you brought that up. One last note on Brady Cook, and then I'll move on to Sam Horn and what you just said. I feel like when we talk about Brady Cook, most of us, people feel like we don't want him to succeed. I would love for Brady Cook to come in next year and prove me wrong. I'm just afraid, based on what we've seen so far in his career, that he's not the guy. I feel like he's not. I feel like if you really want Mizzou football to succeed next year, you should be hoping it's anybody else but Cook. Because if it's anybody else but Cook, it means they were good enough to unseat him. They were good enough to make Drink go, I think I'm ready to make this change. But what you said about Drink not budging in the past, that's a good point to bring up because I feel like this year, more than any other year, Drink actually has options that he can turn to that make sense. Because even last year, when like the K-State game, for example, and Brady Cook was horrible and then he got pulled, before he got pulled, people were like, okay, anyone but Brady Cook now, please. And then they put in somebody else that wasn't Brady Cook, Jack Abraham. And then Jack Abraham came in and threw 2 interceptions. And then everyone's kind of like, oh, okay, so that's why they didn't want to pull Brady Cook. I feel like this year, more than ever, he has guys that he can actually turn to and that he could trust to play in a game. Sam Horn, he was a true freshman last year. So I never really felt like that was going to happen at any point. Now he's got that year of experience under his belt. Drink talked about how his freshman year was a big transition year for him and how that was him getting adjusted to the college lifestyle and learning the offense. He wore the red hat on the sidelines all last year. He was basically there with the quarterback's coach and Eli Drinkwitz during every game. If you ever looked at Drink on the sidelines, Sam Horn was always standing pretty much right next to him or somewhere near him. And then you brought in Jake Garcia. Now, we'll get to him at the very end because I think he's probably third in this QB battle next to Horn and Cook. But even Jake Garcia, has game experience playing in Miami, started some games for Miami just last year. So like that's a guy that started Power 5 college football games and he is now in the fold. I don't think he's going to start. I don't think he's going to win the quarterback battle, but if you go out there and Brady Cook starts shitting the bed, then you could turn to Jake Garcia realistically. Like he could actually play and you're like, "Okay, I think we have something."
Yeah, my opinion with Horn is really centered around Drinkwitz and his coaching ability because Mizzou brought him in to be this offensive guru, this offensive minded coach that is going to get a quarterback and he's going to get the most out of them. We saw Bazelak be pretty solid in 2020 and then he regressed in 2021. I think that you might have to blame that on Drinkwitz and his coaching. And then Cook last year was all right. So if there's any regression with Cook, then I think that Drinkwitz just might not be able to coach good quarterbacks. So with Horn, I think that Horn is his Horn is his guy. He brought in Horn, and Horn wasn't really ready at any point last year. And if he doesn't think that his guy is ready by year 4 and he got him last year, then that's probably his biggest problem and his biggest fault throughout his entire tenure here is not getting his quarterback. And if Horn doesn't work out for him, then I don't know if Drinkwitz keeps his job. I think that Horn is going to be a capable quarterback because there was one clip that I watched of an indoor practice that Mizzou had.
Yeah, I was going to bring that up.
Where Cook just completely 10 yards away,
every single receiver
just
in the
overthrew because they had the little bucket, the net.
Oh, I know. Yeah, the net one. Yeah, and he overthrew
and he just keeps on missing it like 5 or 6 times, and that's like, dude, come on.
Exactly. It's like you don't want to be the person that overreacts to a single clip, but when that's the kind of stuff we saw all year last year, and then you're seeing it again in this clip, it does scare you a little bit.
Yeah, and there's no pressure, no pads, no anything, and it's just clips from an indoor practice. But at the same time, it is a little bit worrying to see something like that. So my leash on Cook is pretty short. I would love to see Sam Horn. I was wanting to see Sam Horn significantly more towards the end of last year, specifically in that New Mexico State game. Him only getting one drive was dumb. I think that just getting him more in-game reps is going to help him. And I really hope that he does overtake the QB battle. And I also really hope that the QB battle doesn't go into the season, because if you don't know who your starting quarterback is going into that K-State game, if they don't have rhythm or repertoire with the rest of the offense, it doesn't matter who. It doesn't matter if it's Cook or if it's Horn. If we don't know who it's going to be and they haven't played the majority of the snaps throughout the first 2 weeks, we're fucked. We are not going to win that K-State game if doesn't matter which one. There's going to be no shot if both of them are just splitting snaps through the first 2 or 3 weeks. Or we play K-State week 3, right?
Yeah, week 3.
Okay, then yeah. So if they're just splitting snaps between the first 2 weeks, then we're going to be screwed.
Yeah, lot to talk about there. So first thing with Bazelak, because you talked about him regressing under Drink. I've always kind of been under the belief that Connor Bazelak probably just was never as good as we thought, and that the first COVID year was kind of a fluke, and he didn't really have any signature games outside the LSU game. And I think now with Connor Bazelak, you see he transferred to Indiana,
and he
was terrible there. He was terrible there, and then he transferred away from Indiana a year later. I think Drink got it right on taking Bazelak out. I think what was so frustrating, though, was how long it took him. Because actually, if you look at the numbers, Brady Cook has been better than Bazelak. People forget how bad Bazelak was in his final season. Brady Cook has been better than Bazelak, as hard as it is to believe. But Sam Horn, that's the guy that I feel like most Mizzou fans want to start, or they want him to win the job. And I think I'm in that camp as well. I mean, I hate to say it, but
I'd like Horn to win the job, because then I think that our ceiling's higher. And if we don't win, then I think that Drink probably loses his job, and then DRF can go get a new coach who she has been proven to be great at finding. So I think that Horn is a win-win scenario as a Mizzou fan, not for Drinkwitz, obviously. Like his safest bet is Cook, but I think as a Mizzou fan, it's a win-win because you either find your guy with Cook or with Horn, or we know that he isn't it, and we know that Drink isn't it, and then we go searching for another coach under
This is
DRF.
why this is why it sucks that they did not get Brady Cook more game reps last year. Because if you got him even like a couple drives against New Mexico State,
You
a couple
mean
drives against
Horn a couple
Abilene
more
Christian,
drives?
yeah,
Yeah,
if they
okay.
got him a couple more drives, because I know he did
Yeah.
play in the New Mexico State game. But even or Abilene Christian, if they played him in that game, if they just got him more game reps, then maybe fans wouldn't be so hesitant to be like, yeah, Horn should be the guy. Like we saw him last year. This guy throws a good ball. He's a good decision maker. But we didn't get to see that. We're just kind of hoping that's the case. We just see the arm talent. We see the arm talent in all these fall camp clips on Twitter and stuff like that. And we get excited, but we didn't really get to see him all that much last year, and that's why we all think Brady Cook is the safe option, is because there's just so much uncertainty. And I feel like if they got Sam Horn more game reps last year, there wouldn't be as much uncertainty. And that's part of the reason why I think Drink is saying that this QB battle could go into the first couple regular season games. I don't love that strategy, but if that's what they need to do just to see Horn in the game, then I also get it, because I think regardless if people think there's a QB battle, regardless if Drink says there's a QB battle, Sam Horn and Jake Garcia are probably both going to play against South Dakota in the first regular season game.
Yeah.
They'll probably also play in the second regular season game, just because I think those games are going to be over relatively quickly. If they're not, well, then you already know how this season's going to go.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think we're all kind of hoping Horn takes the job, but it's just a lot of uncertainty. Like that's most of what there is to say. Horn clearly, I think, has the most talent. He has the highest ceiling. He's Drink's guy. And so if Drink does decide to put him out there and he fails, it's going to be quite a bad look on Drink. I will say this, though, and we had this discussion before. If Drink picks Brady Cook and he's the starter and they go 6-6, I think there's a chance that he's gone, or at least more of a chance than if it's Sam Horn. I think if Sam Horn is the starter and he goes out there and he goes 6-6 again, but there's signs of life with Sam Horn, there's promise for the future. Like I think this guy can be really good.
Like
Similar
if we
to
start off, what is it, 2-2 through our first 4 weeks, we win our first two, then we lose to K-State and LSU, and then Drinks just like fuck it and puts in Horn for the rest of the year, and we go 500, or we go 5-3 and we finish this year 7-5, then yeah, I think Drink keeps his job. But like I said, while Cook's the safe option, I think that Horn definitely leverages him more of a high risk, high reward situation.
Yeah, I just feel like if there's something there with Sam Horn and everyone can see it, it's like and Drink also has like a top 20 recruiting class coming in. People go, okay, maybe. I mean, and we don't want this to be the case. Like, you don't want him to go 500 again. It would be, you wouldn't feel great about it. But if there's enough there with Sam Horn, I think people could be talked into another year. But if you go 6-6 with Brady Cook, I think this thing is probably over.
Yeah. I haven't said anything about Garcia. I don't like him at all. I really don't see him winning the job. Whenever he transferred, I watched some of his games at against Middle Tennessee and against Duke. If he plays meaningful snaps, Drinkwitz should be fired, and Mizzou is in for a very long season. So that's my 2 cents on Jake Garcia. Don't like him. I think it's really between Cook and Horn. I hope Horn wins, as stated. But if Brady goes out there and he gets us to 8 wins, he beats LSU, and hell, if he gets us to 9 wins, then yeah, I was wrong, and Brady Cook hope the best for him if he does start.
I mean, I kind of agree about Jake Garcia, but I also feel like I'm higher on him at the same time. Not that I think he's going to threaten for the starting job, but I was watching some more of the fall camp videos on Twitter, and on the ones that showed all of the quarterbacks taking turns throwing to receivers, Jake Garcia has the fastest and the cleanest release of all of them. And he does have some arm talent for sure. Like, he's right up there with Sam Horn as far as arm talent goes. And he was a similar recruit coming out of high school to Sam Horn. I mean, he was a top 50 or so guy coming out of high school, went to Miami, and he had some good moments at Miami, but he also had some not so good moments, and almost kind of similar to Brady Cook. If you watch some of his games, and I'm sure you saw them, he would throw like some back-breaking interception that's like, what were you looking at right there?
I mean, even in that Arkansas game that most Mizzou fans are just like, look, this is Brady Cook. This is what we can get in that Arkansas game. There were still some plays in that Arkansas game where it's just like, Jesus.
Well, even in the
overthrew somebody, or like Burden had. I remember there's one specific play where Burden or Lovett was on a slant, and Cook had an absolutely clean pocket, and he just oversails them, and then he does it again, but Burden or Lovett was able to jump up, and they were able to catch it, but they still shouldn't have had to jump for it.
Well, and in the second half of that game, even Brady Cook basically cooled off. It was really the first half of that game from the offense that won it. The defense still had to carry them in the second half. Brady Cook's rushing game was pretty much shut down by Arkansas as soon as they realized that that's all Mizzou was trying to do with them. And if you actually look at the team's offensive points per game from the first half of the season to the second half of the season, it remained the same. They still averaged 25 points per game, even in the second half of the season versus the first 6 games. And so that's why I feel like people are kind of overselling Brady Cook's second half of the season. Yes, he improved marginally as a runner, but I still don't think Mizzou was getting out of him what they need to get out of him if they want to win 8 games. That's just my feeling on Cook. But real quick on Garcia, I'll finish up my thoughts on him. I don't think he's going to be the starting QB or anything, but worst case scenario, if Brady Cook doesn't look good, or if you also throw Sam Horn in there and he doesn't look good, he is an option, and I think he's an option. You know, he started Division I football games before for the University of Miami, and he's an option that can go out there and you still have a chance to win. Whereas last year, if it wasn't Brady Cook, I'm not sure any of the quarterbacks behind him really gave you a chance to win anything. And so Jake Garcia, I don't know. I think he's a solid addition to the QB room, but I don't expect him to see meaningful snaps either. But did you have any other thoughts? Or otherwise, I was going to ask you a question on, of course, who you think the starting quarterback will be.
Bring back Tyler Macon and make Matty Mack the quarterback coach.
Oh, well, interesting take, because I feel like a lot of people like Tyler Macon.
He should have got more snaps last year. Anyways,
he should have gotten a shot. He should have gotten a shot at least. When Brady Cook and Tyler Macon both got like their first start versus Georgia when Bazelak got hurt a couple seasons ago, a lot of people felt like Tyler Macon was actually the better quarterback. But whatever, that's a conversation for another.
Yeah.
My pick for the starting quarterback, I kind of said it at the beginning, but I think it is going to be Brady Cook. And I'm going to say it is Brady Cook, and I'm hoping for someone else. I'm hoping for Sam Horn. That said, if Brady Cook is the starter, I'm going to root like hell for him to figure this thing out. And I do think there's a good chance that he improves just given the situation that he has been put in by this staff.
I would agree with you on just about everything there. I think that he's put in a position. I don't necessarily know if he's going to improve, but I think that he's going to be put in a position where he can't fail. I don't know if it's really going to be him improving. I think it's just going to be the team around him is going to be significantly better than it was last year. I think that Blake Baker, like I said, love our defense. Probably my favorite Mizzou defense that I think that I'll be able to watch since 2013. I haven't been this excited for a Mizzou defense since I started like really getting invested into college football.
Yeah, well, I mean, since we both agree on who the starter is going to be, I'll just ask, what do you feel? What percentage chance would you put on Sam Horn being the starter at some point in the season. If it is
At
Brady Cook.
some point in the season, ooh. Like Sam Horn, like Drinkwitz, middle of the week on a Wednesday, just comes out at like 10 a.m. and says Sam Horn's going to be our starting quarterback this week. The percentage of that any week, I think, is 20%.
It's relatively low. I was thinking it'd be. It really all depends on how those first 3 weeks of the season
Yeah.
go. Really, the K State game, I guess I should say. Like, if Brady Cook is the starter for the K State game and looks no better than he was last year against K State, I think the switch is made almost immediately.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's how I feel. I think it'll be Brady Cook, but I'm hoping for someone else. And I feel like if you really want Mizzou football to go to new heights, you should also be hoping for someone else. Not to say that you can't be optimistic for Brady Cook and the improvement of Brady Cook if he is the starter, but I think you should be hoping that one of these other quarterbacks that gives us a higher ceiling is able to beat him out.
For sure.
So there you have it, guys. Those are our thoughts on the Mizzou quarterback battle heading into the regular season. It's a big year for Drink. It's pretty much a make or break year, and the quarterback race is pretty close between all three guys. But with all that being said, guys, make sure you let us know down in the comments who you think the Mizzou starting quarterback will be or who you want the starting quarterback to be. Let us know your thoughts. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe so more Mizzou fans can find this. You can
Sign
check
the
out my work.
petition to bring back the Sailor Tiger.
Yeah, you can do that. I'm sure Braden's putting that together. I have no idea, but make sure you check out my work on showmefootball.com. You can follow me on Twitter at showmefb. And then, Braden, did you have any socials that you wanted to plug?
If you want to follow me on Twitter, at showmebaseball. Oh, also, real plug. Me and Josh are doing movie reviews on a new movie channel, and he has yet to promote it on here. So, genuinely,
Show me movies.
Show me movies. That's been really fun to do.
Yeah, it's a new branch of the Show Me Media Network empire. So you guys can go check it out. Show Me Movies if you like mid movie reviews. Mine are kind of mid. Braden's are actually pretty good, so you'll have to go watch them. But yeah, make sure you guys like, share, and subscribe. We'll see you all in the next one. And MIZ.
ZOU.